Thanksgiving, friends. I am so glad you're here with me. It is just a few weeks away from Thanksgiving 2024, and I can't believe that this year has gone so quickly, and even more so today, I can't believe that we get to feed our family of 8 a Thanksgiving dinner for under $100. Yes, for real. We're talking like a very good sized turkey, all the fixings, and three pies. Can you believe it? Just $100 at Walmart will get you everything you need, and I'm gonna show you exactly how. Now, in this video, I'm gonna show you the things that I bought, and I'm gonna take you with me as I prepare these items. So if you wanna skip to specific recipes, go down in the description below and there will be timestamps for you to be able to jump around to whatever recipe it is that you wanna see. First thing I'm doing is I am going to show you exactly what I bought and how much for each item. I'm also going to give you some tips and tricks along the way if you need to cut that budget just a bit more. But let me give you a rundown first of the recipes that I have planned for this video using these $100 worth of ingredients. Okay, I have to bust out my laptop to remind me of exactly everything it is that we are making over the next few days. And yes, we are working ahead. We are going to do this over the next few days so that it's not rushed. You certainly can do this all on the same day, and I'll break that down for you in a downloadable copy of all this information down below that you can grab that if you want something a little bit more step-by-step and kind of hand-holding and to help you kind of plan and navigate your day. But just to give you an idea, here are the things that are on our Thanksgiving menu this year. We have turkey, we have cheesy mashed potatoes, we have sweet potato casserole, cranberry sauce, stuffing, green bean casserole. Oh, and when I say stuffing, I don't mean the box stuff. We are actually going to make our stuffing. We're going to make the bread and then make the stuffing from that because we're also going to need a little bit of breadcrumbs for something else later. But that's one of the places that you can save a little bit of money here as well, is if you want to skip that and just go for the box stuffing mix, you could do that and it would cut you a little bit of extra finances in this whole thing. So anyhow, stuffing, green bean casserole, creamed cornbread, glazed carrots, broccoli and cheese casserole, one of my favorites and a tradition for my family. You could easily substitute these same ingredients. You could substitute these out and do like a mac and cheese or something like that. And then 3 pies. So we are gonna do pecan pie, apple pie, pumpkin pie, homemade whipped cream, and rolls, homemade rolls. So again, definitely places that you can cut corners in order to even cut back further on the budget this year for Thanksgiving. But this $100 worth of ingredients is going to feed my family of 8 and a general family of 8 or 10 really, and give us leftovers and make sure that we have everyone's favorite side dish. These recipes are what I would consider semi-homemade. Like I said, if you want to go with the more boxed traditional kind of route there, if you're looking to pinch even more pennies, consider things like box stuffing or rolls, canned rolls, or pre-baked pie shells. You can kind of morph some of this, right, to fit the budget that you have, okay? So now let me show you exactly what we got for $100 at Walmart in 2024. First thing we're starting with is the turkey. Now, typically for a turkey, you want about a pound per person when you're looking at what weight you want for a turkey. This one ended up being about 12 pounds, right around there. It is 88 cents per pound. Most turkeys around Thanksgiving will go on sale, so wait until they drop. I went to Walmart because I figure that's the most accessible and most common as far as pricing and whatnot for people all around the US. So I wanted to shop at Walmart. Could I have gotten things cheaper, a little bit differently at our other grocery stores? Yes, but I wanted to make this as realistic and applicable to you as possible. So again, make sure you're looking for the turkeys that are 88 cents per pound or cheaper. As we get towards Thanksgiving, they will likely go on even more of a sale because they don't want to hang on to them. Once we're done with Thanksgiving, Christmas comes and people do purchase them a little bit, but definitely not in the same quantities. Christmas is traditionally more of a ham. Next we have some Ritz style crackers. These obviously aren't Ritz. I went with the Great Value brand on the majority of the things that I could in order to save a little bit of money. So this is going to go on our broccoli and cheese casserole, and there's also going to be extra of these left over that we may even be able to put together some sort of a charcuterie board. Next we have walnuts. These walnuts will be going into our stuffing. If you're a nut-free household, this is another great place that you can save a couple bucks. Next, we have sugar. The sugar is going to be used in our pie crust. It's going to be used in our rolls. It's going to be used in quite a few things. And so this whole video is assuming that you have nothing other than maybe a little bit of oil and salt and pepper. Next, we got an equally sized bag of flour. Again, this is going to make our pie crust. It's going to make our gravy. It's going to make our rolls. You know, it's going to be used for multiple things. Then next I got milk, and I did get whole milk. I asked for the Great Value brand, however they were out, so they had to substitute this. I shopped for everything online and just went and did a pickup order, so that kind of saved me money not having to go in and shop myself. However, I was then at the mercy of those shopping for me, so it's definitely something to consider. You just need a half gallon of milk. I went with whole milk so that we can get all the flavor out of that we possibly can. We have apples here for our apple pie, and again, leftover ones could be used on the charcuterie board. Next, I have Velveeta. This Velveeta cheese is a must-have for the broccoli and cheese casserole. There is really no substitute, no cheaper alternative than this Velveeta. So again, if you wanted to kind of switch any of these recipes out, this would be another good place to kind of cut the costs that are associated with this whole haul. Then we have the French fried onions. These are going to be for our green bean casserole. Next is chicken broth, and we're obviously going to be using chicken broth for a few different items. Soy sauce, here's another way that you can cut a corner. If you happen to collect soy sauce packets, use the soy sauce packets. Again, I'm assuming that you have nothing, so unfortunately you have to buy this mega huge item of soy sauce for one of our recipes. And then I got 2 cans of beans for the green bean casserole. You could use fresh green beans if you have them. I just figured this would be a little bit cheaper of a route, and we're just gonna do kind of a smaller green bean casserole. Cream of mushroom soup is going to need to go with that. 2 boxes of corn muffin mix, and this is going to be paired with our creamed corn. These 2 cans of creamed corn, so that's going to pair with our corn muffin mix, and we're going to make a 9x13 pan of that. I've got 3 pounds of sweet potatoes here for our sweet potato casserole. It was cheaper just to buy the 3-pound bag instead of the individual sweet potatoes. Celery, again, if you can go in and buy 1 stalk of celery for your stuffing recipe, then go ahead and do that, save some money that way. But this can also be used in our appetizer charcuterie board. Evaporated milk, this is going to be used for our pumpkin pie recipe that we are making. Cream cheese is going to go in our mashed potatoes. Heavy whipping cream for our whipped cream, of course. Cranberries, this is another way that you can kind of cut corners and save. Okay. Another way that you can kind of cut corners and save money is if you were to get a can of cranberry sauce, but for those interested in making homemade cranberry sauce, again, this is all like semi-homemade. We're gonna use the real thing. We've got carrots here for our glazed carrots, marshmallows for the sweet potato pie. We of course needed some garlic for a variety of things. And then we got thyme, rosemary, and sage. I was looking for, my grocery store has one of these that has all 3 of these herbs in them, and it's called like a poultry blend. Walmart only had these individual ones, so that's a place that I had to spend a little bit more money. And then of course we have an onion. Coming over here, I needed to get some vanilla extract for the pies, some yeast for the rolls, brown sugar, and I don't know why I got 2. I should have only gotten 1. So again, that's kind of where we're like at the mercy of those shopping for us, right? I'll have to check and see if that ended up being an accident on my part or their part, and how that adds up money-wise. We've got 2 pounds of broccoli for our broccoli cheese casserole, 4 pounds of butter. This is going to be used in a whole lot of everything. And then of course you have to have mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving. So I got a 3-pound bag of mashed potatoes. This was on sale, so this was actually cheaper than buying a single potato. We needed to get corn syrup for our pecan pie, pecans for our pecan pie, orange juice, just a little thing, for our pie crust. And then we had to get some apple pie spice. Now here's the thing, apple pie spice is cinnamon, nutmeg, and allspice. Pumpkin pie spice has a couple other spices added to it. This apple pie spice is going to be used in the pumpkin pie, the apple pie, and in the sweet potato pie because of the combination of those spices. Otherwise, I was looking at buying just a cinnamon and just a nutmeg, and then maybe some other spices for an apple pie or a pumpkin pie. But if you just do a combo like this, if you are really interested in cutting some corners, use the same seasoning. It's going to taste different because of the items it's paired with, such as sweet potato, pumpkin, apples, things like that, right? So do your research and find a spice combination that is going to work for you and the majority of the recipes that you're making. Okay, so a couple things to note here is they did in fact give me 2 of those light brown sugars. I did not pay for 2 of them, so we'll adjust that in the total here, or the total is correct, but we should have only gotten 1 bag of brown sugar. They did not give me a lemon. Apparently they were out. And as I said, they did have to substitute the Walmart for the name brand milk, as well as the, as well as the vanilla extract. I did have imitation vanilla in the cart, which brought the price down a bit, but they had to substitute for this because apparently they were out of it. So everything you've seen here, except for the lemon, which they could not add in, and including the 2 markup items, that total came out to be $101.28, including tax. And so if we take that $101.28 and we substitute the 2 items that were supposed to be the Walmart brand, and we add in the lemon, and excluding tax, because I know not everyone everywhere pays tax on groceries, our total comes out to be $100.79. So now that we've hit that amazing amount of food for that amount of money, which I know does seem a little bit crazy to say here in 2024 that like, oh, we got this amount of food. For 2024, this is good. This is good. So let's take all these ingredients now and turn it into a feast worth feasting on. Okay friends, we're gonna get started on some things. I'm going to prep as much as I can prior to actually kind of cooking it, okay? And some things we're gonna need to cook, but like there's a whole method to my madness, okay? So I have some 9x13 pans, and I had these prior, like these are not things that I bought, so these did not come out of the $100 budget that we had. You of course can use anything you have. I have a bunch of 9x13 casserole dishes. I have other size casserole dishes. So it's all gonna happen in these, in various things, right? You use what you have is what I'm saying. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy these things, though it does make cleanup a breeze. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna start with is cranberry sauce, because we can get this going and this can be done and sitting in our fridge. My goal here is to get as much going and done ahead of time that then just needs to either be like thrown into the oven and reheated or cooked in the oven. So I've got my full 12 ounces of cranberries. Just going to toss those into the Instant Pot, and so those are done. Then I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of orange juice. So this is our 11.5 ounces of orange juice. This is going to be used for the cranberry sauce as well as for pie crust. All right, we've got our cranberries in there. I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of sugar. Okay, 1/4 cup of sugar, and then, sorry, a 1/2 cup of orange juice. And this is still plenty left over for the pie crust that we're gonna use. And now I'm also going to put in a little 1/2 sprig of rosemary. Just enough to give it some flavor. We're still using a lot of this rosemary in our turkey and stuffing and places like that, so we don't want to use all of it. Just enough to give it a little bit of flavor. Okay, so here is our cranberry. I know it doesn't look super when you take the lid off there, but look at it mush and come together. So I'm gonna mush this up until it's my desired consistency, a little bit chunky, a little bit loose, and then we're just gonna transfer this into a mason jar, which is our cups, and I'll put a lid on it and put it in the refrigerator. I was gonna say microwave. This does not go into the microwave, it goes into the refrigerator. And this can stay in there until we're ready to eat with it. I know cranberry sauce is one of those kind of touchy ones. You either like it or you don't, but can we just appreciate for a minute how beautiful pink red this is? And it made a full glass, so the same as buying a can of it at the store, which you certainly could have done that as well, or make more in your Instant Pot if you have the budget for it. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to do is prep my sweet potato casserole. So I'm gonna need sweet potatoes, brown sugar, marshmallows, a little bit of vanilla. Let's get to peeling. Okay, I had to do a bit of an outfit change because it is toasty in here, and that t-shirt I was wearing is double layered. All right, we are going to start by peeling all of our sweet potatoes and then cubing them up and getting them into a pot of water. So while I've got the whole thing going with the sweet potatoes here, I'm also going to take the time, since I have the peeler out and I have the chicken bucket out, I'm going to peel the regular potatoes as well. So I can get both of those going at the same time, side by side on the stove top, and get those prepped and ready. Add in half cup of milk, whole milk. Just going to use as much flavor as we possibly can. We're going to add in some soy sauce if I can get it open. This is that condensed cream of mushroom. Let's see if we can get it out. The recipe calls for 4 cups of green beans. I'm just using 2 of these 14.5-ounce cans. And these are cut green beans also. That's going to make it a little bit easier. That way we don't have to trim off any ends or anything. Just going to pour this all right over the top. Okay, now we're just going to sprinkle on a little bit of pepper on top. A little bit of salt. And then about half the bag to start of these French onion pieces. And now we're going to set this aside until we're ready to bake it. Next on our list, we're going to do the broccoli and cheese casserole. Using one of the big 2-pound bags of broccoli. Now we're going to pre-melt this on the stove. While our Velveeta is melting, I'm going to get this half stick of butter melting in the microwave. This is going to be combined with our Ritz cracker toppings. Cream corn. We're going to kind of follow the instructions on the box, except I'm trying to make sure that I have enough milk for my rolls and things like that. So I'm going to do a half cup of milk instead of 2/3. Also remember, we've got all that liquid from the creamed corn that's not usually in there. Okay, for our super creamy, cheesy mashed potatoes, which this is a way you could cut a corner if you needed to budget-wise. You could make them as regular mashed potatoes and not include the cream cheese. While they're still hot, once they've been drained, they're fork tender, add in this cream cheese. The whole block right in there, as well as an entire stick of butter. Now we're going to do a couple, maybe a teaspoon and a half to 2 teaspoons of salt, a little bit of pepper, like maybe half a teaspoon. We're gonna add in half cup of milk and see where we're at. Once all this stuff melts, that might be enough. This is the best potato recipe ever. It's so good. If you make nothing else, make this. And you could totally serve it out of this pot, out of this Dutch oven. I am moving everything to these types of trays so that I can easily stack them. You could even make all of this ahead of time and freeze it. So you would want them in freezer safe 9x13s like this, and it'll make it really easy for putting it all in the oven to get warmed up all at the same time when you're ready to serve it. And then that way, all these dishes can be done too. Okay, so that makes a very nice 9x13 pan. We're going to do the sweet potatoes next. That's going to be another 9x13 pan. You can see how this can quickly and easily feed 3 to 10 people. Okay, much like we did with the regular potatoes, we're going to add in our butter while the potatoes are warm, only using 1/3 cup of butter. We're going to add about a half cup of brown sugar. And then instead of cinnamon and nutmeg, remember we're using this apple pie spice. Put in about a teaspoon of that. And about a half teaspoon of salt just to balance it. Now we've got a 10-ounce bag of mini marshmallows. These will just go all over the top here. These need to sit with a cover on them, otherwise I will have little hands reaching their way in and grabbing mini marshmallows. So here is the broccoli cheese casserole. This was in the oven at 400 for about 30 minutes, mixing that frozen broccoli and cheese all around. And then I topped it with those buttered crumbled Ritz crackers. Popped it back in the oven for just a few minutes until it was nice and brown. And now it's hot and ready. Okay, so we're having some technical difficulties, but we're gonna make this work. So we're gonna put in, I've got 1 pound of chopped carrots here. I'm gonna put in about 1/8 of a cup of light brown sugar. And then do a little drizzle of oil. We just want enough to coat the carrots so that all the seasoning sticks to it. Again, we're using the apple pie spice. And add about half a teaspoon of that. And now we'll toss this all together and get it into a 425-degree oven. Okay, so it's all nice and coated. We're gonna get this in the oven for about 30 minutes and we're gonna stir it about halfway through just to make sure that there's even cooking on all the sides. All right, there's gonna be kids in the background because that's life, right? So we're gonna start with about 2 cups of warm water. And then we're gonna add in our 1 packet of yeast. And when I tell you that we had just enough flour for all the things that we needed, I mean like down to the tablespoon. Okay, now I'm gonna add 750 grams of flour, all-purpose flour, and that's about 5 cups. And this is going to make more French bread than what we needed really, but it's okay. And then about a teaspoon of salt. So this is going to make our French baguette that we're then going to turn into stuffing. Okay, so now we are going to spray a large bowl here. Get all of this dough out. This dough did end up a little bit on the wet side. This dough did end up a bit on the wet side. So I suggest when you try to make it that you start with about half the amount of water and add it gradually because it's going to depend a lot on the weather and things like that. So it's rather sticky right now. I did have to take a little bit of flour from the pie flour amount, but I know what I can take from that, what I can spare. So we're going to put this all in here. Now I'm going to cover this with a piece of plastic wrap, and we are going to let this double in size, and then we will shape our baguettes. I'm going to get 2 baguettes out of this. Alright, I'm going to try and do this one over here. So now we are working on the rolls. We're going to get that bread proofing. So I've got a 1.5 cups of milk here. This is going to get microwaved for about 30 seconds. All of this can just go right into the same bowl. So this is about 4 cups of flour. I'm pouring all of that warm milk. Then I've got 1 packet of yeast going right on top. Going to do the rest of that stick of butter that I did earlier. I did 1/3 of a stick, 1/3 cup. So I'm doing the rest of that stick in here. Again, just to kind of save on the amount of butter that we're using. More butter is going to go on top as well. We do need more sugar. Okay, so I did add a little bit of salt to this dough as well, and then we ran into more technical difficulties. But here is the dough for our rolls. So this, I'm just going to kind of scoop out, spray the inside, and again, cover it with plastic wrap, let this double in size, and then we will shape it into our rolls. Okay, so to a food processor, we're going to do 1 pie shell at a time, or this makes 2 9-inch shells. So we're going to add 500 grams of flour, which is about 3 to 3.5 cups of flour. We're going to add in about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now we're going to add in 3 sticks of cold butter. This really does need to be cold. You do not want room temperature for this. And now we're going to add in a couple splashes of orange juice. This is the secret ingredient here. Okay. Now we're going to pulse it until we get a pretty thick crumb. We don't want all that butter to get worked in, but we do want it to blend enough to work. And that's our carrots telling us they're done. So this is what we're looking for as far as a pie dough, and we're gonna put this together on the counter. Right, and here are the beautiful carrots. They're tender, they're syrupy. A pound doesn't make too much, but it'll be enough for those that really do like carrots. So you can either store them until you're ready to eat right here in this cast iron dish, or you can move them to a Tupperware, which is what I'm going to do. We'll just move them to a Tupperware and heat when we're ready. And you can reheat them either in the oven, or you can just reheat them right on the stovetop in the skillet. Can you peel me out a couple big pieces of parchment paper, please? Sorry, plastic wrap.
How big?
Bigger than that. Yeah, that's good. Alright, you don't want to work it too much. We're going to kind of squish this into a decent sized circle. Try and keep it together as best we can. And then this is going to go into the fridge, wrapped up, to let that butter kind of harden up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to try and scoop that. Remember, we used margarine, we didn't use butter, so you're not really going to get the big butter chunks like you would with a grass-fed regular butter. It is going to be a little bit more mealy of a pie dough, a little less like a croissant dough, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, so this is all packaged up. This is going to go in the fridge, and we're going to repeat this process one more time with the other flour to make our second pie dough. So this will be the bottom for the pecan and the pumpkin pie, and then the other one will be the top and bottom to the apple pie. Okay, so I know this doesn't look the greatest, doesn't look exactly like French bread, but it is. It's bread. It did flatten out a bit, and that's because we use too much water for the climate currently. I've done this exact recipe before, and it's come out completely fine, especially when, you know, it's done by weight, which I did. So just don't even worry about it. If you bought a thing of French bread instead of making it, you could do that as well. But we are going to be cutting this up into cubes and making essentially croutons with it to make our stuffing. And then this one is going to be for a bonus recipe. So not really concerned with like how it looks, because this is all going to get dried out and cooked even more tomorrow when we make our stuffing. Well, good morning, friends. It's the next day, and if there was any chance that we had technical difficulties yesterday, it happened, okay? So we're just gonna dive right back into it and catch you up to speed. So today, we got quite a bit done yesterday, so all we have to do today are the pies, the cooking of the actual turkey, and the stuffing, and then our bonus meal, which I think we can pull off. We'll have to see how many eggs we use. Okay, so today, let's get right into it. I'm going to start with prepping the pumpkin puree, the pumpkin filling for the pumpkin pie. So I've got a full 15-ounce can of this pumpkin puree. And it is not the same as pumpkin pie filling, so just keep that in mind. Then I've got a 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. And then we're going to do a couple, well, maybe like a teaspoon or so, 1 to 2 teaspoons of this apple pie spice. Remember, we're using this spice combination for pretty much all of our things. Woo! Do about a teaspoon of vanilla and about a half a teaspoon of salt. And so I just want to clarify, I'll say a teaspoon of that apple pie spice for what we did just a little bit ago. Okay, and now I'm going to do 3/4 of a cup of this sugar. Woo! Make sure you dump it all in the bowl. There we go. Now we're going to do 2 eggs. And now we're just going to whisk this all together, and then we'll put it aside until we're ready to fill our pumpkin pie shell. All right. Pumpkin pie filling. I didn't even bother covering this bread last night because I knew we were just going to be cutting it and getting it on the sheet pan today. So if it dried out a bit, not a problem. So now we're going to cut our cubes for our stuffing and get those drying out on a sheet pan. You can make the chunks as big or as small as you would like. Remember, people are going to be trying to eat this by the fork full, so just kind of keep that in mind. You might want to cut them a little bit smaller than you kind of think that you need to. Okay, so like I would not go any larger than that, and you could rip them in half, which is exactly what I'm going to do. And now this is going into a 300-degree oven for about an hour, and we're going to toss it every now and then just to make sure it's evenly drying. Since I'm already cutting bread here on the cutting board, I'm going to cut up the other loaf of bread for our bonus recipe. That way we can keep all of the mess and utensils like dirty with the same thing, so there's little cross-contamination so that I don't have to pick up crumbs more than once. So we are going to do a French toast casserole with some of the leftover ingredients. Because who doesn't love leftovers? Okay, so now we are going to chop up our celery. And so what I'm doing, I've got a pot here. I'm going to put in the scraps into our pot, and we will actually make stock with it as another part of a leftover recipe. but I've got four stalks here. Four ribs of celery that I'm just going to cut up for our stuffing. Also going to cut the rest of this celery. We're going to use it for a platter. You know, I just had a thought. We're not going to use these scraps for a broth right off. First, we are going to use it as the base to set our turkey on, because we don't really want our turkey sitting on the very bottom of a pan. We would like for it to be off the pan just a bit. So we are going to use those in the bottom of the roasting pan. Okay. This is a very large onion, so I'm not going to use the entire onion in the stuffing. I think that would be a little bit overkill. So I'm going to do about half of the onion. I'm just putting it in right in the same bowl as the celery here. And we can also start building our base for the turkey. There, that's a lovely little bed that the turkey is going to be able to sit on. Into the same bowl as the onion and celery, we're going to add 2 cloves of garlic. And I've already put 2 in that roasting pan. And the little nubs here are going to go into that roasting pan as well, just on the bottom. And then I'm going to use probably most of the rest of the garlic on the actual turkey itself. Thank you. Okay, next we're going to start on our apple pie. I'm going to peel and core all of these. There are 8 of these apples. I'm going to use 7, and I'm going to reserve one of them for our breakfast French toast casserole and just add that in because I think that would be delicious. But I'm still going to peel and core all of these. The peelings and the core are going to go into our turkey bucket here for it to sit on.
Turkey, huh?
Cutting these apples nice and thin so that we can layer them pretty well in the pie. I'm just moving them to a big bowl for now as I cut them. And I'm also going to use some lemon juice to kind of squirt over it. This just helps to prevent the apples from browning out too much. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't really affect the taste, and these are all going to get cooked anyhow. So if you don't have a lemon juice for this, not a big deal. Okay, and since I have my cutting board out, I am getting ready to put the cutting board away. So again, less dishes. I'm just gonna chop up some herbs for the turkey. We're gonna make our turkey butter blend here in just a minute. I'm also going to use some of this herb blend for the stuffing. So I've got sage, rosemary, and thyme. Do my best to pick off all the leaves and then add the stems. Any stems or little parts, gonna add it right to that turkey pan. All of this flavor is just going to carry over into broth and stock, or gravy and stock, plus the underside of the turkey. We are not wasting any bit that we bought from this. A little bit of this for our stuffing. Probably about a quarter of it, maybe a tablespoon or so. And then the rest of this is going to go into or onto the turkey. I'm going to work on cleaning up a little bit for my own sanity. It's kind of dark today, so I had to turn the light on. So we had 2 sleeves of this left from our broccoli casserole. So I'm going to put it on this plate with the leftover celery, if I can get it open. And these will become part of our appetizer tray, which is a nice bonus. Really want to use all these ingredients whatever way we can. And so if you have any, obviously not part of the grocery haul that we did, but if you have any peanut butter, or if you have any salad dressing or anything like that, you can pair that with these, or any cheese if you have any cheese kicking around in your drawer. So this will become a very simple appetizer, a little snack for the kids. We don't need a lot, right? Because we've got a whole lot going on for our actual dinner and our sides. So don't feel like you have to actually put out anything fancy. A simple cracker and celery with a dip like ranch dressing, that would be perfect here. Very kid friendly. All right, we're gonna get the stuffing going in just a minute, but I do want to use up these eggs so that they're not hanging around my kitchen. So we are working on our bonus recipe right now. We're gonna do a breakfast casserole, like a French toast breakfast casserole. We're gonna use some apples just to kind of help to fill it. And we're just using 5 eggs because we need 3 for the pecan pie filling. So I've got 5 eggs here. This heavy cream is for our whipped cream, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to put just a half cup in there. Actually not even a half cup, just a quarter cup. Then I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. Actually, I'm also going to add a teaspoon of vanilla to the whipped cream while I have it. I'm going to add about a teaspoon, half a teaspoon. Now let's go full teaspoon of that apple pie spice. And then we're gonna add about a half cup of brown sugar. This is definitely more of a dessert breakfast type item. Okay, not packed. Half cup of loose brown sugar. I'm going to crack all these eggs, whisk this all together, and then we're going to get it into the same bowl. I might put it all into a large bowl, that way I can mix it a little easier. Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'm gonna do. But this is gonna be our casserole dish that we're going to bake it in. But we want to give it some time to soak up all of that egg. Want to limit the pockets of egg mixture in this casserole. We really want it to be more like French toast, which is a little bit on the drier side typically. All right, I moved my apple pie apples to a different bowl. So I'm gonna add in all my bread and chopped apples into this one, as well as this mixture we just made. Now with your hands or gloved hands, whatever you feel most comfortable with, we're gonna toss everything. Try and get this bread, every piece of this bread coated as best we can, and then we're gonna let it sit to really soak it up. There should not be a pool of liquid at the bottom of this bowl. That smells so good. Okay, now we're gonna get the pecan pie filling going again so I can get rid of these eggs. As the day goes on, I really get motivated by seeing our pile of ingredients dwindle. The more I can get my kitchen cleaned up and get things in the trash, it really motivates me to finish. Okay, I've got the 2 cups of pecan halves, the 3 eggs. Again, everything's going right into one bowl here. We're gonna do a cup of corn syrup. You can use light or dark. Oh, I'm so glad you feel better, buddy. It's going to be almost the entire bottle. We're going to do a half cup of brown sugar. Yep. Couple teaspoons of vanilla. Do about a half teaspoon of salt. Okay, and then we're going to add 4 tablespoons of melted butter. Just kind of mixing this a little bit. The butter's still kind of hot. Okay, so there's our pecan pie filling, and this is going to sit to the side. Okay, we're going to add in the rest of that 4 tablespoons of butter. We use 4 tablespoons for the pecan pie, and so we're using the other half of that stick here for the stuffing. We're just going to melt it in the skillet, and we're going to cook it right in the skillet as well. So this will be nice, kind of a one-pan dish. Go ahead, buddy. Okay, we're going to add all of our herbs and vegetables that we prepared and get these all sauteed until they're nice and soft. We're going to need this bowl, so I'm just going to transfer it to the baking dish at this point. You can see that there's some liquid in there, but not a ton, so that's good. Okay, so to this bowl I'm going to add all of our bread. Okay, we're going to add in our sauteed vegetables. Kind of toss this all around. And now this is optional. I have walnuts that we did buy as part of our haul. And so I am going to put in walnuts in here. You can of course leave these out. And I'm actually going to take a few of these, like just a handful. And I'm gonna put this on our breakfast casserole, our bonus breakfast casserole. Okay, just a little bit. Okay, and these are all chopped. So like I didn't have to do anything extra there. Okay, and now I've got 4 cups of chicken stock. And so we're gonna start with a cup. Actually, I'm gonna do 2 cups because remember this bread is very dry. We're gonna toss it and just get all these flavors marrying together, get the bread to start soaking up some of that chicken stock. The drier you have these bread bites, these like croutons, the more of that chicken stock they're going to soak up. So we're tossing everything much like we did with the bonus breakfast casserole, and then I'm going to let it sit for a little bit so that we can let this bread soak up all that chicken stock. And so then this becomes a leftover ingredient. You can either use it to make gravy if you don't want to use the pan drippings, or we might need some of this to add to the stuffing in case it needs a little more liquid. Or you can save this for, you know, tomorrow and make a little thing of chicken, like a chicken noodle soup or a leftover turkey soup is what I'm trying to say. We're gonna put all of our stuffing mixture in here. I did end up using about 2.5 cups. That got it to the desired dryness, or wetness rather. What I wanted it, you know, parts of it to be dry, parts of it to be a little soggier. Everyone likes their stuffing a little bit different, I find. Some people want it like really, really soft, like the box stuff. Some people like it a little on the crunchier side, adding that texture. Okay. These are gonna go in together into the oven for 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. All right, now the part that you've all been waiting for. I do the turkey last, since it's going to take all the time in the oven, all kinds of time. Everything else can be done, and we can just have to warm it up. Okay, I'm going to bring this over to the sink, and I'm going to cut a slit in the bottom, and so that all the liquid can drain out into the sink and not on my tray. Okay, the majority of that liquid is now out, so I'm going to open the rest of it up. Okay, and then inside should be the neck. Yeah, there it is. We've got the neck and giblets and all that. I'm gonna toss this but the neck I'm going to put right into our what you call it, the pan. I'm losing words here. Okay, so now I'm going to take my fingers and just slightly, gently is what I'm trying to say, gently separate the skin from the meat. You'll kind of pull apart tendons, not tendons, like pieces of the skin, very gently. You want to go back as far as you can without tearing the skin. If you do tear the skin, it's not a big deal. It will taste the same. All right, so now I'm going to move this. Move this big, beautiful turkey to our bed here. Look at all that awesome stuff that could have just gone in the trash. Okay. Going to tuck the wings under so that they don't get burned. All right, now let's make our butter mixture. Remember that garlic and the herbs that I had earlier? I've got that here. And then I've got 2 sticks of butter. Okay, use gloved hands or not. If it's feeding your family like this is feeding mine, it'll be fine. It's fine. Don't come at me. Okay, so now I'm going to take decent sized clumps of it. We're going to stuff it in between the skin and the meat of the bird. And so what I like to do is grab a big old blob of it, get it in there, just stuff a whole bunch in, probably about half of it. Okay, and so now we have this big glob under the skin. I'm going to press it down with my hand on the outside here, and you can see exactly where it's going as you spread it in there. Again, get it as much as possible, spread all over the meat. Remember to go down towards the cavity, down towards the legs. This really makes for a super juicy, amazing turkey. Okay, I throw some pieces in the cavity also. Now we're going to take some aluminum foil and tent it. And so the way I am tenting this is I'm covering the edge, but I'm creating a bit of a divot on the inside. That way, as steam comes up and liquid comes up to the top and it comes down, it's not going outside of this pan. It's going to come down and go to the lowest point, which is going to be the tin foil that is divoted slightly inside of the pan. So we're going to pop this in the oven at 350 according to the directions. The last 10-15 minutes we're going to take the tin foil off and let it brown and crisp up all over the skin. I might even bump it up to about 400 just to really get a nice crisp set on it. And so while this is cooking, we're gonna finish up with our desserts. Okay, we're going to make some caramel for our breakfast casserole because we have leftover ingredients. So I'm going to start with 6 tablespoons of butter, add in a cup of light brown sugar. Come on, baby, let's go. We're going to let this melt down. And then we're gonna add in some vanilla, some salt, and some milk. Okay, and now we're gonna do the whipped cream because this can go in the fridge. So I've got about 1 3/4 cups of heavy cream, a little bit of vanilla. Typically you would use powdered sugar, but we didn't have powdered sugar in our haul, so I'm gonna add in a little bit of granulated sugar. Remember, this is going to go on pies that are already sweet, so we don't need to be overly sweet about this. Make this a day in advance, or if you just want to be fancy for your guests, you can make it right before you serve. We're going to cover this with plastic wrap and get it in the fridge. Be some pieces of the caramel that are kind of curdled because we're using milk instead of heavy cream. So the way to combat that is simply to strain it into your dish. It's going to set up a little bit more as it cools, so straining it while it's hot in here into your heat-proof glass is really going to help. Look at all that. We're not putting that into our caramel. That we can drizzle onto our breakfast casserole. Okay, we're going to let that sit and cool and set up. All right, can you guys believe we have made it to the end? I can't even believe that it's possible. All the food that we've been making for $100. That is just wild to me that you could do all of this in 2024. So we are on the last bit here, which is our pies. So I have our pie crust fresh out of the fridge. Okay, so it's nice and cool. Now we are going to work on rolling this into 2 pie crusts with each of these pie doughs that we have prepared. Okay, so one's gonna go to the pumpkin pie, one's gonna go to the pecan pie, and then a double, a top and a bottom for the apple pie. Right, if you have a bit of flour in your pantry, use that. But I'm going to roll it on my wooden cutting board because we're going as if we've used all of our flour. I want to show you that this is possible. What I really should have done was cut this before when we originally made it. I should have separated it into 4. That way it would have been a bit easier to roll out, because as of now I'm going to have to cut this into multiple pieces and trying to roll it out and get everything nice and even. It's just a little tricky. So in the directions in the ebook that goes along with this video, I will highly suggest that you portion it into 4. There we go. Put that nice flat side down. Get it into this pie plate as best we can, and then just use your hand to kind of squish it in there. Make sure that it gets all the way up the side. We're just going to give this a quick stir, just to make sure everything is still nice and combined. Pour it into our pie crust. Right. Did feel a couple little pieces. Felt like there was a little tear in a couple sections, so I'm just plopping in some extra assurance there. Feels a little thin in a couple places, so easy enough. We'll just put a little extra there. Okay. Put this right back over here. So we're just gonna pile as much of this in as possible. Try and lay them all as flat as possible. Get in as many as you can. So I've got a good layer here. I'm going to add some brown sugar. Ooh, that was a little much. Okay. Also going to sprinkle in some apple pie spice. Be relatively generous with it. Now we're going to put some butter on top. We're going to do probably about a half a stick and just put dollops on there. Now we're just going to kind of pinch the sides here. You can trim off any excess that you want. Remember that this crust is going to shrink a bit as it bakes. take a fork and crimp the edge. This is going to help the top and bottom stick together, as well as give it a little bit of cuteness. And I am pushing in the crust a little bit so that in case it bubbles, then hopefully we won't get too much of a spill. We're going to give it a few air vents up in the top. Okay, I don't know where my brushing spatula is, so I'm just going to take my fingers and rub milk all on the top here. This is going to help it get nice and evenly browned, a little bit of a glossy shine to it, similar to what an egg wash would do. You can use milk, you can use a little bit of like watered down oil. It's just, this is totally an optional step, but we have the milk, so we're going to use it. And lastly, we're going to pour in our pecan pie filling. Okay, now this one's going to go on the sheet pan also. Okay, all of these pies are going to go in at 350. We're going to put them all in at the same time, and then after about 35 minutes, I'm going to take out the pumpkin and the pecan. No, sorry, take out the apple and the pecan. The pumpkin is going to stay in for an additional 15 minutes. This is our beautiful turkey from the oven. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at all the butter underneath the skin. And we've got all kinds of drippings under there. We're going to turn that into gravy. Okay, see all that beautiful drippings? We are now going to strain that into a bowl and then add it to a skillet with butter and flour and make a gravy. And look at this finished plate. This is a generous portion of each thing. This is a very large dinner plate. It's got everything. I had to pile it all on there. Things are hidden. There was not enough room for everything. Hardly enough room for everything. This is more than enough. And there's more than enough left over for other people. What a blessing. So in all honesty, I set out to make this for 8 to 10 people. This will easily, based on even everyone taking a bit of each thing, having this monster plate, this will still feed, honestly, more like 16. How awesome is that for $100? Thank you, Jesus. One of the many things to be thankful for. Well, that's it, friends. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and happy Thanksgiving. I hope that this gives you loads of new recipes to try and encouragement that you can feed your large family or your party on a budget. Just $100. This is going to be more than enough food to feed 8 to 10 people this holiday season. If you like this kind of content, be sure to let me know down in the comments so I can make more helpful big meals for you guys. And you can get the printout with all of these recipes, an ebook with tips, tricks, timing, all the good things, totally condensed into an ebook down in the description below. And yeah, have a wonderful, happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, look at all the food.
What's that?
Ooh. It's time for us to dig in. Love you guys. Bye.